300 AD, it is believed that the first recorded aspects of nursing placed the inception of the profession during the height of the Roman Empire. Ellen Doherty is the first registered nurse in history. September 17, 1903, North Carolina was the first state to embrace the nursing licensure law in the United States. However, in the year of 1879, Mary Eliza Mahoney was the first African American to study and work as a professionally trained nurse in the United States. In 1879, Mahoney was also the first African American to graduate from an American School of Nursing, New England's Hospital for Women and Children. Let's fast forward to 2021 and meet Miss Tondalaya C. Booker, an APRN, Advanced Practice Registered Nurse. Her importance to the field of anesthesiology is relevant as she represents African Americans in a field of just 1%. Yes, that's right. Blacks make up 1% of the professionals in this field. Tonight's guest is nothing short of brilliant, incredible, and a winner. Not to mention, she is my wife's closest friend, and also a friend of the Median Society. Welcome to the Median Society. Tonight our guest is Miss Tondalaya C. Booker. Tondi is what many of us call her. She continues to excel in the field of nursing and has been featured on magazine covers and is respected by her peers. Tonight we will learn of the path she has taken, the work that she has put in, and the ups and downs for her to achieve her ultimate goal of receiving and becoming a DNP, a Doctor of Nursing Practice, later this year in 2021. Thank you so much, Tondalaya, for appearing on the Median Society. We really appreciate it, and I think my audience is going to get a lot of information out of you tonight. So thanks again for stopping by.
You're welcome. Thank you for such a gracious introduction. It's great to be here with the Median Society to speak with you. Happy to share.
Oh, great. Okay, let's jump right in. We got a lot to cover, and you have a lot to give to our audience. Let's tell the audience what an anesthetist is. What do you do exactly? What is your job?
A nurse anesthetist is a registered nurse at the foundation. We enter into advanced practice after completing time in an intensive care unit as a registered nurse. That is a prerequisite, if you will. And then we enter into, it was previously a master's degree program specializing in anesthesia. However, now it is a doctoral program. And we train extensively for me, it was 28 months. Now it's 36 additional months. And we receive a master's in anesthesiology and certified as a nurse practitioner, as well as a nurse anesthetist. And what we do is manipulate what you call your autonomic nervous system. So those are things that you're unconsciously aware of that work in your body, such as your breathing, your heartbeat, your gastrointestinal processes. And we put you under general anesthesia for all types of surgeries. We monitor you during these surgeries, and we emerge you from surgery. And it can be very stressful. There are so many types of anesthetics that we actually perform. Going under general anesthesia for surgery is just one of the things that we do.
Wow. That's a mouthful, and that is a lot to understand. But so the importance, so just give a brief synopsis on the importance of what you do that helps us come through surgeries.
So it's important. We work as an anesthesia care team. Chances are when you're having surgery, a lot of people are unaware of what a nurse anesthetist is. And chances are when you come into the preoperative area prior to going to surgery, you're actually speaking to someone like myself and not an anesthesiologist. the anesthesiologist is an important part of the anesthesia team. However, we are perfectly capable of completing anesthetics independently. Currently, there are about 19 states that permit nurse anesthetists to practice unsupervised. We carry malpractice insurance. We do everything. We do advanced procedures. Um, any surgery that someone needs, something as simple as a elective plastic surgery to a very necessary surgery like open heart surgery. We do the anesthetics for all of those things. We also do regional anesthetics, such as placing epidurals for women in labor to make their laboring process essentially pain-free or more manageable.
Hmm. Hmm. So, what's the makeup of men and women within this role?
So, men comprise about 40% of the uh, nurse anesthetist profession.
Hmm.
In nursing as a whole, men comprise 10%. So that statistic increases quite a bit
Hmm.
in the specialty of anesthesia.
So, they're only about 10% in regular nursing, but when they get to this level, they become more.
Right. It's estimated to be about 40%.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So, and you said it takes this particular program is about 36 months?
Currently,
Hmm.
the training is about 36 months, going into it from a post baccalaureate degree.
Okay, so when you're saying post baccalaureate, to our audience, what is the starting point? So you're saying, are they RN after their post baccalaureate or what?
So a minimum requirement for consideration to do advanced practice to enter nurse anesthesia is a bachelor's of nursing.
Okay.
And then you have to complete some post baccalaureate courses, um, or courses that you may have not completed in your undergrad. For me, prior to going back to school in 2008, I was required to take organic chemistry
Hmm.
in order to enter the program. I had my bachelor's of nursing. However, I needed organic chemistry to proceed into the anesthesia program.
Wow, that sounds intense. So I tell you, let's jump into a deeper subject as well, and we're going to come back and talk about the world that you work within. But let's talk about you. Tell the audience who you are, what made you want to become a nurse from the get-go.
I love to tell this story. I am a product of some great mentors, my family, and friendships that I've formed over the years, and they've all molded me into becoming who I am today. And I don't ever take that for granted. I wanted to become a nurse because one of my aunts, her name's Valerie Hazley, she lives in Chicago. She was a nurse, and I remember being very young, observing her. I liked her style, her charisma, her intelligence, and she was just the fly auntie. And I said, I want to do whatever she's doing. She's always happy. She always has great cars and cute apartments. And that was without knowing, and that was at a very young age, maybe 8 or 9. So as I got older and started to look into what a nurse actually does, it actually aligned with my interests. I was interested in health and sciences, and so I started to pattern my education to prepare for a nursing track. And for me, it was not easy path. It was difficult. I became a single mom at 21, so that kind of altered my path. However, I was able to proceed and finish to where I am today.
Awesome. And I tell you, so I want to stick on that part. Single moms, you can become whatever it is you want to become. I'm telling you, we have known this young lady for a long time, and we've seen her progression throughout her life. So let's talk about 19-year-old Tondi to Tondi today. What at 19, there was something that may have triggered you to say, I want to help people. I want to be engaged in some type of help of them. What really was it that got you to that point?
You know, there were a couple of things. Number one, there's a saying that you shouldn't be the smartest person in your circle, and if you are, you need to change your circle. And for me, I've been surrounded with some dynamic friends, very successful friends. And at 19, I felt I was behind. I had friends that were proceeding into college, and you know, I went to a community college, and in my mind, it was, you know, it wasn't real college. I looked at it as a elevated high school, so to speak. At least that was my opinion at 19. I knew I needed stability and I needed to support my daughter. And I decided to take things more seriously and figure out how I was going to secure a career, not a job, a career.
So in the land of nurses and nursing, what continues to push you and drive you towards your ultimate goal?
There are things that you don't learn in school, the politics of healthcare, the nature of nurses in general. And, you know, some of it for me was just having the ability to know that I wanted to continue, having the mentorship from my aunt. She was always planting these seeds to advance my practice. Once I was able to complete nursing, I got a 2-year associate's degree. Back then, I graduated in 2000 with an Associate of Science in Nursing, and I was able to practice as a registered nurse. Times have changed. You find that type of degree infrequently. Now a bachelor's is required to do many jobs, but eventually I obtained my bachelor's from the University of Central Florida, continued to practice, and again, the dynamics of healthcare were changing. Efficiency is real, meaning I have to care for a critically ill patient. I have to put orders in the computer. I have to do tech work. I have to do social work. So many things and the demands being placed on a bedside nurse. And I knew that I did not want to stay in that role forever.
That's interesting. So for our audience, explain to them the progression of, just show them the progression, how you go and you're saying from junior college all the way to what you're about to become later this year. Explain the progression of how they would have to go about becoming to your field.
I will tell you, for me, because I feel that the path that I took was not easy, but very necessary. I, again, completed the Associate of Science in Nursing, worked on a primary medicine floor 3 years, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 30 patients on the floor. Myself and 2 other nurses split the floor 3 ways, so I had 10 patients a night. And what I didn't realize is that type of work was preparing me for where I am now. It taught me organization. It taught me how to communicate with physicians. It taught me how to recognize when there's a problem early as opposed to late, and being able to intervene to help patients get better. I did that for about 3 or 4 years. I eventually progressed to a step-down nursing unit. obtained my bachelor's of nursing from the University of Central Florida at 30. Continued to work in critical care. I worked in a medical ICU here in Orlando, and then I went into the coronary care unit, which is specializing in heart procedures or people that have heart failure. And from there, I started to look into doing nurse anesthetist, and I applied twice. The first time I applied, I didn't get in, and I was very discouraged because one of my biggest fears is failure. And I had just resolved to be a nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner, or just see patients for a cardiologist or what have you. But nurse anesthesia, I had counted it out of my career path. And then there was a friend of mine, Leslie, called me, and this is divine intervention. And she said, you need to reapply. They need good nurses in this program. You're a good nurse. I remember driving to Miami, interviewing for the program. It was a formal interview. And I remember leaving the interview crying, thinking I'm not going to get in. And lo and behold, 2 days later, I got an email with provisional acceptance into the program, provided that I completed organic chemistry with B or better, which was a struggle, but I did it. So that was my path. Now, someone else, they go through nursing, get a bachelor's in nursing. You do have to work at least a year in critical care, and then you can apply to a nurse anesthesia program. So altogether, the process is easily, I would say, 6 years, maybe 7.
Wow. That's
For me,
real
it
med.
took longer.
That's real med school. Wow, that's work. Let's dive over to another area, because I know it hasn't always been easy amongst your career in nursing. What are some of the negative experiences that you've had as a African American in nursing?
I think a common theme that many professional African American women may face is feeling invisible. You know that you're good. You know that you go above and beyond. You're better than average, yet you don't get the proper recognition. People overlook you, and it's difficult, and it's almost as if you have to have an internal compass that leads you to rise above that and know that your time is coming, and you don't always need the validation, especially from the wrong people.
Or have you had any things that have made you question, should I even stay in this field?
The field of anesthesia, I refer to as, it's full of the good old boys.
Okay.
So training was like a hazing. I felt like I was going through hazing for a sorority. And, you know, it's almost as if I felt like, had I not gone through the things that I'd gone through in my career prior to going into this program, I felt like they were trying to break me. Lengthy hours, you know, studying in the middle of the night, you know, giving your colleagues that are non-minorities these great cases and putting you in cases that, you know, weren't really meaningful or helpful, so that when I completed my training, and if I were challenged or faced with a situation, I was fearful that I wouldn't be able to perform because I didn't get the proper experience.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, you have to take the little wins when you can and make the most of the opportunities that do present. And so the physicians that I felt were fair, that trained me, even in the anesthetist, they train you. I took those opportunities, even if they weren't as often as some of my colleagues, to get the most that I could out of my training.
So what would you tell the audience of young people that are out there right now that are trying to consider a career in nursing? What will you tell them are some of the things that some of the African American kids may go through? Like, can you give them some examples?
To become a nurse, it isn't terribly difficult. I will say that. To become a registered nurse, it's not the easiest thing, but to me, if you put in the time and the effort and you have a genuine interest, you can do it. Now, to advance your practice, that's a different story, because there has to be something that motivates you to do so other than increasing your salary, because it's not easy. And where I am, I consider myself to be at the pinnacle of my nursing career. Not saying that I have shattered the glass ceiling, if you will, because there's still more to do. But you have to have dedication, you have to have insight, maturity, and just the desire to want to further yourself. I encourage any young man or young woman that is interested in nursing, don't stop at just being a bedside nurse, although the field of nursing encompasses so many things, such as social work or insurance work. You don't necessarily have to do direct patient care.
Okay, that's good information. What are some of the strides that African Americans and Latinx demographics have made within this field, within anesthesiology as well as just regular nursing?
So I can say the field is slowly becoming more diverse. Just some quick demographics in terms of people of color in the field of nurse anesthesia. African Americans comprise 1.3% of the profession. I jot down some statistics here. Hispanics, 2.5% of the profession. Asian and Pacific Islanders, 2.1%. Native Americans, 0.7%. And then you have Caucasians. They represent about 81% of the profession.
Wow. That's a lot. So we're basically, as African Americans, we're still not even really making a dent in it yet.
What I've found, it seems, and I absolutely get it, being a Black woman, that the young Blacks that come through the program may not have the confidence to assert themselves the way they need to. And so in this field, it is a shark tank. It is very much a shark tank. And so people will equate shyness with incompetence. And so when there's a target on the back of these African American students, that target just seems to magnify as they try to progress through the program. And many times, once that target has been placed, they are dismissed from the program. Whereas you see others that are non-minorities make egregious errors, and they're still allowed to continue through the program, graduate, and practice.
Oh, wow. So even in this field, it's still has a lot of racial just disparities.
In my experience here in Central Florida, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's a good segue over to mentorship. You mentioned that earlier on, and a lot of what you're talking about right now may be somewhat rectified by having good mentors in place. So explain how important the mentorship with your aunt, your father, was to you in helping you to just cross over and just keep going when it got hard?
Oh, absolutely. My aunt planting the seeds. I can remember looking into what a nurse anesthetist was, which, by the way, the profession of nurse anesthesia is looking into changing the name to nurse anesthesiologist, because many people are familiar with an anesthesiologist. So, not to mislead people,
Mm-hmm.
you preface that with nurse. Anesthesiologist is someone that is an expert in anesthesia, not
Okay.
necessarily a physician. That's the definition of anesthesiologist. And
Mm-hmm.
we are experts in anesthesia. And so the profession is looking to change the name to nurse anesthesiologist. So back to your question, my aunt planted the seed, and I remember looking into it thinking, there's no way I could do that. You have to be extremely smart to do that. And and I was in my mid 20s at that point. You have to understand, I didn't actually start the training to become a nurse anesthetist until I was 34. Okay. So you're talking about 10 years earlier, when I actually just peeked into what the curriculum entailed. I was like, oh no, I'm not smart enough for that. So you have, Auntie Val pushing me. My dad, I would compare myself to my friends that had completed master's degrees, and become pharmacists and doctors. And my father was very instrumental in my life, saying to me, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to finish, just as long as you finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forgot those words. And another saying that helped me through the difficult times was, you have a small window of opportunity, and you have to seize that opportunity when it presents, because once that window closes, it may never open again. And I never forgot those things. And just being encouraged by my friends. I've been blessed to have a great circle of friends that weren't competitive in a negative way, always competitive in an encouraging way. And that's a blessing. So, I think support is extremely important, and some people may not have family, but there has to be someone in a church, a teacher, an athletic coach, somebody that can mentor you to get through difficult times and difficult decisions.
So
agree.
what are some statements and barriers that were made to you early on that almost made you quit up at this point? Because you've gotten from the RN and you've been that for a while, and I know there was a set there, but what about now?
Go back a little bit. When I first wanted to take on the endeavor of nursing, I wasn't, the most scholarly student. Not that I was not that I was incapable of doing the work. I wasn't disciplined at 19. And I remember going to the School of Nursing at the community college, and the secretary telling me that I didn't have enough points to be competitive for acceptance into their nursing program. And based on what she saw, I would never be a nurse. And at best, I'd be a licensed practical nurse. And, I should try to go for that. So I remember leaving that office crying and feeling broken, but it was something inside of me. And I think it was divine intervention and God that told me, keep looking further. And that's what I did. And I was finally able to find entry into another school and complete a critical thinking test. And I was able to start a nursing program by that route. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
my message to young people that may see this is, if you get a no, that doesn't mean a permanent no. Find another route. In terms of my doctorate training that I'm in now, I'm in the 5th semester of 6. I remember speaking to one of the anesthesiologists that I work with, who I respect a great deal, and he said to me, I may as well stick a piece of bubble gum on paper and call it a doctoral degree, and that this was a money-making scheme. Now, what you have to understand, the political climate of anesthesia between physicians and nurse anesthetists is pretty tense. And, some will encourage you, many will not. And, my colleagues, in fact, have not always been supportive. They will say things such as, well, you're not going to increase your pay. You're spending money to get a degree, and it's not going to do anything in terms of you financially. Well, you see, I see how healthcare is changing, and that's a whole different conversation. But I'm doing it because I'm thinking about the future, and I see how medicine is going, how healthcare is going, and I know that having a doctorate in this field is going to be very advantageous. So I have to be very self-motivated because there are not any immediate rewards right now.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting to know. It's interesting that you brought that up because my oldest son, when he was in high school, he had let us know that he wanted to go into computer science. And he actually took a computer science course in high school, or a couple of courses. And his teacher had us in a conference and told us, if I had known he was serious about it, I don't really think I would tell you guys to let him go into them because I don't think he's good. He'll be good at it. And I remember walking away hearing that. And, years later after that, he's in school in Philly, and he pretty much aces every one of his computer science classes. So I don't really, you really can't listen to people that are saying these things. And you're right. The young people, when people tell you no, you have to keep fighting. There's always going to be someone there that is trying to tear you down or keep you from getting somewhere that they couldn't get, Yeah. And that's typically what it's about. So, no, that's great. Got a question for you. What kind of music you like, old school or new school?
Old school, son.
Yeah, boy.
Old school. I like Teddy Pendergrass, Jeffrey Osborne, Marvin Gaye. I'm with the new school too, but if you want to know what I'm more likely to play in my car quickly, it'll be something from the old school. Although my favorite guy band is New Edition.
Okay, well, hey, yeah, they're dope. That's true. So, before we get out of here, what do you want the audience to gain from your experience in life and your career?
I would say I'm not done. I think there's more to come for me. I believe you have to have a vision in order to be successful. You have to have a vision of where you see yourself and where you want to be. I always like to say things that are extremely rewarding are going to be challenging. And if they were not, everybody would be doing it and you would not reap the same reward. And so, my career has allowed me to do many things that I dreamed of being 20. And I look back and look at where I am now, and I still can't believe it. I'm not the most successful person in the world, but for me, this was major, and it's so surreal. Just the way I think, the way I carry myself. My profession has given me more confidence as a woman, as a Black woman, more importantly. And, I'm always looking to set new goals for myself. And I think when you want to have a certain level of success and achievement in life, you're going to constantly do that. And it doesn't always have to be a professional goal. I can tell you my next challenge when I finish this doctoral program in August, I want to learn how to play the piano. you know,
Wow.
and I've always wanted to do that. And so, you know, there's no reason why I shouldn't try. And I think it would be a beautiful thing for me. So that's my next goal. I'm working on one goal and I've already set the next goal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what kind of advice do you want to give these young people and sell your field? Tell them, what do you want them to do so that they can be more young black kids in the world of anesthesiology?
If anyone, you don't have to be young. Again, I was 34 when I started this endeavor of anesthesia training. It is extremely rewarding, but it's tough. I tell anybody, if I could do it, anybody can do it. It takes dedication. It takes motivation and discipline. And if you have those things, I just feel it would be extremely difficult to fail. And to compare my life now to where I was 20 years ago, it's amazing. And so I encourage anybody that's interested in nursing, advance your practice. And you have to have your life set up in such a way that you haven't accumulated a ton of debt, because it's important to mention when you go through anesthesia training, you can't work. So if you're overwhelmed with debt, you're not going to be able to do it successfully. I had some savings and I took out professional loans, and I was able to get through with about $30,000 a year. So, you know, it's a small sacrifice for a long-term reward.
I want to thank you so much for appearing, and we hope to have you again as a regular contributor, you know, coming in on our Health Beat segments. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I look forward to doing another chat very soon.
Very cool. That's awesome. For those of you that are watching the Media Society tonight, if you want to continue watching us, you can watch us over at YouTube, and that's The Median Society on YouTube. While on Facebook, it's at KA Middle Society. You can reach us anytime, text us, email us. We'll get back to you. If you want to know more about the field of anesthesiology, let us know, and we'll put you in touch with Ms. Booker. Thank you, and good night.